Welcome, everybody. I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm the host for the podcast Different Thinking for Different Times. And today, we have a guest that's going to challenge some of your thinking, and he's going to ask you to commit to do certain things in life that you're gifted with. And I can tell you, this is Dr. Bishop Foreman. So he's Dr. Foreman and Bishop Foreman, and he's got a fascinating story, starting with how it all began. So welcome, Bishop Foreman. I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful your people reached out. I've learned a lot about you, studied what you're up to, and you have a story to share with people. And so let's
I got to just say thank you for having me. I'm honored to be with you. Excited about our conversation. I think it's going to add a lot of value to the lives of people. And just big salute to you. And I really mean it. I believe that conversations like this are catalysts for transformation. I think that any major transformation that's going to happen in somebody's life, it often starts with one simple conversation. And only eternity is going to tell the number of lives that you have impacted and you've made a difference for in their lives. And so I just want to say that to you because I think it's amazing. Just hearing a little bit about your story and what you're doing and the podcast and how we got here, all of that. I was literally blown away, and so I'm excited to add to the listeners and add value. They call me the People's Bishop because I love people. I really genuinely love people. I want to see people get results in their life, and it's not just limited to spiritual things. I believe in the 360 approach to life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's everything. That's faith. That's family. That's fitness. That's finances. That's everything.
Mm-hmm.
The word gospel means good news. So I think if you're going to be talking about the gospel, you ought to be giving some good news. And the good news is that the bad news is wrong. And so I've literally lived my whole life doing that. I got started very, very early. And so, the joke is I came out of my mom's room with a Bible and a briefcase that I fought my way here and just have been fighting since I got here in a good way, But I had this affinity towards spirituality and this affinity towards success and business and entrepreneurship. And I was just different. And I had to learn early on as a kid not to demonize my difference. And I think for many people, the goal is, well, I should be like this person, be like this person. I learned to be inspired by people, but not to be envious or jealous or even to try to become those people because there was a reason I was sent to the earth. I often say, if you
That's a
got a
great
pulse,
point.
God's still got a plan. I would see other people. Somebody described it to me like this, and I loved it. They said you became like a Frankenstein in the good way, and that you took all these different parts from these different people that you saw, and then you created who you were. Because in my family, I was born in Denver, but raised in Memphis, reared in Memphis, and saw a lot of things that accompany the inner city experience. So, I saw what it was to be drugs and gangs and bad choices in life and experiencing a drive-by shooting. And some people probably haven't even heard that phrase, but that literally somebody's driving and discharging a weapon at a home or a group or whatever.
Wow.
Experiencing that. And so experiencing that as a kid, you really begin to get a sense that, do I either want to duplicate this or do I want to do something different? Do I want to replicate this or do I want to go another route? So early on, this was really forged on the inside of me that this is not the life I want. This is not what I want my story to be. I'm bigger than this zip code that I'm in. And so that mentality began to go with me. My mom, she's amazing. I want to show the audience this. She's an interior designer, among several other things. And so we were redoing this particular room, and she wrote a note on my sticky pad, and she got her signature and "love you" on it. And I bring that up because I watched my mom overcome so much. My stepfather was, for those of you who you familiar with the story of I Can Tina Turner, that movie, What's Love Got to Do with It? Kind of familiar with that story? Okay. So that was basically my stepfather. He was an abuser. He was a womanizer. He was a lot of things that you saw in a man that you just say, these are not the things to be. And I learned early on that sometimes the gift that we're given is who and what not to be. You're given an image, but the image is don't do this, don't be this. He was a brilliant man. And I used to tell him this. I said, you're so smart, you're dumb. I said, he was a brilliant man. He could sell ice to an Eskimo and he'd think he got a good deal on it. Like he was He was so articulate, very charismatic, extremely knowledgeable, very erudite. I mean, just an incredibly well spoken
Mm-hmm.
individual. And he could, intellectually spar with the best of them.
Mm-hmm.
But he gave in to what I call in one of my books, these generational curses, which are
Mm-hmm.
things that are passed down and around.
Well, you
He
wrote about sins of the father.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the opening story in the book is about him because he never met his biological father. In fact, when his mother was pregnant with him,
Mm-hmm.
she unalived him in self-defense because he was attacking her and beating her and what have you. And so he never met him, but he ended up being exactly like him. And that showed me that principle. And that's the book we wrote, Sins of the Fathers, that talked about that. And that opening story is actually about him in that
Mm-hmm.
book, where I go through the fact that he never met him, the whole story, but yet he ends up being exactly like this man that he never met. And it really reveals this principle of generational curses, destructive patterns of behavior that are passed
Mm-hmm.
down and around.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me thinking early on. I said, okay, so what am I going to be? Am I going to be, the curse breaker, or am I going to be the curse perpetuator?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when we think of the word curse, people think of, voodoo and witchcraft and, cauldrons and all of that. It's just an empowerment to fail. Destructive stuff that's passed
Mm-hmm.
down and around that doesn't work, but it keeps getting passed down, and it doesn't work, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work. And everybody has to make that decision. Like, what are you going to be? And so early on, that was my decision. I was like, I got to be a curse breaker. I got to break this thing.
And you said something too about some people teach us how to be, and many others teach us how not to be.
Yes,
And that's the reason that God put all the chaos and conflict in this world, so we can use our free will to make a choice. Which one will
yes,
it be? Will it be
yes,
higher frequency energy doing good? Because when we do good, we feel good. There's maybe a reason for that. Then there's the lower frequency energy. And if people start to notice one or the other in their life, they can begin to choose. And you
yes.
chose higher frequency energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then how
You
did
know,
you break away from all that?
yeah, great question. It really was back to that the way I came out of my mom's womb. It really pushed me into spirituality
I love that.
in a
With a
way.
with a
How about a
Bible.
briefcase? Bible in one hand, briefcase over here. If it was today, I'd say, iPhone with my Bible app, and then like a iPad over here, business or something like. But like, it was that. So I was a kid, like watching. There was a preacher who used to come on TV out of Los Angeles. Came on Friday nights, and so I was like a kid, while other kids, watching cartoons. I watch cartoons and all that stuff, but I would
Mhm,
want to watch this preacher. And I had my little kid study Bible, and I was like going along and watching this preacher, like, that type of thing. Here's the funniest thing: their theme song went like this: evidence. So they're saying the word evidence, and then they have this like symphony behind it. Doom, 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 doom. Evidence. So that's the song. I thought until I was like a teenager that they were saying Bennigan's. Remember the restaurant? So the whole time I'm thinking, they're talking about Bennigan's, and I was like, why is this preacher talking about Bennigan's in his opening theme song? Like, this is the weirdest thing ever. But nonetheless, I just had this affinity towards it. So all of the chaos that I saw in my stepfather, I was able to, it really pushed me to God. It pushed me to the Bible. It pushed me to be more spiritual. And
mhm,
that really, was how I began to get out of that. And so, you fast forward years later, as a kid, I was really parentified because, I've got my brother, got my sister, I'm protecting them,
mhm,
from the chaos that is my stepfather and what he created. And
mhm,
and I learned to chew the meat and spit the bone with him. There was a lot of bone to spit out, but there was some meat too,
mhm.
because he was extremely loquacious. As I mentioned, he was extremely well spoken. So, he'd do things like, teach me words and say certain things. And I'd have to go, there was no Google. So, I'd have to learn the word and figure the word out and that type of thing, while also watching this person, like shift, because he had some substance abuse issues, and watching
Mhm,
him shift. And
mhm,
it taught me lots of things, again, what not to do. So it made me be very consistent. I became a very consistent and persistent person. I
Mm-hmm.
watched that in my mother. Spirituality. I mean, I loved church. I loved going to church. I love spirituality. It's actually it was relief for me. I was like, there's somebody that can get this man. I was like, there's something bigger than this. Because when you're surrounded by that, you
Mm-hmm.
can begin to really think like this is life. And at what point will it go
Mm-hmm.
too far? And at what point, we moved around a lot because he just, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of his ways were pretty irresponsible. And so, there was so much change and transition as a kid. I think we added
Mm-hmm.
it up one day. By the time I was like, 16, 17, 18, something like that, I think it was like, 20 plus places we'd lived.
Mm-hmm.
It's something like that. It was a lot of transition. So what that did is reinforce in me a consistency and a
Mm-hmm.
persistence that would be really be pervasive in everything that I would do in life. Like my middle
Mm-hmm.
name is consistent. Like people know if Bishop Foreman says it, it's happening. Like it's the end of the story. That's that. You can take that to the bank. And you fast forward. I get into music. A friend of mine, he and I were really competitive. And this is one of the things, again, learning what not to be, but also learning how to chew the meat, spit the bone. My
Mm-hmm.
stepfather wanted me to play an instrument because he was a drum major in
Mm-hmm.
college.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted me to play an instrument. So I tried trombone, which was his instrument, hated it. Tried trumpet, I was like, I don't understand how you're supposed to get all these notes out of these three little things. I said, I hated it. Right. And then you got to keep your cheeks big. I hate it. Tried the saxophone. I think President Clinton was president. So that was the thing to do at the time. So tried the sax. I hate the sax. And, the woodwind. I was like, I don't like any of this. And so a friend of mine got a drum set. And when he
Mm-hmm.
gets his drum set, he and I were very competitive. I'm like, I want a drum set. I'm like, well, you can't even play drums. Like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to teach myself how to play. It's like, just like you played the trombone and all this. I was like, this is different. This is different. We go into the music store, get the drum set, and I didn't know how to play drums. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. I started watching this guy at church. His name was Stan. Stan used to wear these blue blocker glasses, for those who remember those. He's wearing these
Mm-hmm.
blue blocker glasses, and he'd
Mm-hmm.
often have on like a cut-off shirt so you could see his shoulders. And
Mm-hmm.
Stan was a left-handed drummer. I never knew that until a few years later.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just watch him. And I think that's a principle for everybody. You never know who's watching you. And you doing what you
Very
do
true.
and being who you are is giving them permission you didn't even know that you were giving to them.
True.
So I'm
It's true.
watching Stan just play. So Stan, he's a left-handed drummer. He used to move his shoulder like that for his right hand. And left-handed drummers play parallel with the sixth parallel. Most do. Right-handed drummers, I'm right-handed. You're supposed to play with them crossed, with your arms crossed. And so I remember one day a guy said to me, he said, "Okay, you're left-handed, huh?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, why do you play like that?" So I thought that's how you're supposed to play. As how Stan plays, I thought this is how you're supposed to play. And what have you. Started playing drums and started on a church staff, actually, when I was 12 years old, playing drums. And then the rest has really been this unfolding story of that's still unfolding now.
And you got an award for gospel music. Talk about that.
I did. They inducted me to the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. So I started as a drummer, as I mentioned, and I wasn't that great. I'm going to be honest, I was horrible. What are those two qualities? Consistency,
Mm-hmm.
persistence that I learned.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I would, the beat, you're supposed to keep the beat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. You had the metronome going, but I was like, metronome, needs that. And so I got very good. And then from there, I got into keyboard and piano, organ, those types of things, and began
Do
to
you
lead
sing as well?
choirs. You know what? I wouldn't call the answer is yes, but I wouldn't call myself a singer. I am, I think that I don't, as a vocalist, the answer is yes, but as a vocalist, I look at some people like, oh my God, listen to their voice. They have an amazing voice. But I can get the job done. How about that? I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
And so
So
years later,
you got the award for what you put together? What was the award for?
sure. So I was inducted into the Colorado Gospel Music Hall of Fame, which I didn't even know we had one until I was inducted in it because Colorado is
Mm-hmm.
46 out of 50 for the lowest church attendance in the nation. So I didn't even realize that there was a whole gospel, academy and
Mm-hmm.
awards and community and what have you. So I
Mm-hmm.
was inducted in officially for Director of the Year,
That's great.
choirs, choruses,
You're arranging it and you're putting it all together.
putting it all together. And so, gospel music is all by ear. Very little of it is through reading music and that type of thing. And so, you just learn it and then you just know it. You never look at notes, you never look at it, sheet music, that type of thing. In fact, I remember taking a music theory class and I was looking at the notes. I was like, what is this? And we had to score a piece. So we had to write out, basically compose a piece and score a piece. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what in the world is this? And so I'm in my music theory class. Now in high school at the time. I'm in my music theory class. I'm playing, and as I'm playing, everybody's in the class is going, they're clapping. Even the teacher, the professor, instructor, rather, he's moving. Everybody's enjoying it, and everybody gets done. It's standing over it. Woo! And then the instructor's like, "That is great." He holds up, he holds up the sheet music, and he says, "That's just not what's on this paper." And I said, "Well," I said, "That's as close as I can get it. I don't know what to tell you. That's as close as I can get it." And but yeah, I was inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame, and years later, once I became a senior pastor, that same body would recognize me as Pastor of the Year.
Wow. Wow.
Several years later, it's been a journey. Music was really used as a vehicle to get me into a greater mission.
Now, what was your doctorate in? You think you were getting away with that? You got a PhD.
Yeah. So a few things. So let me back up.
Yeah.
So in high school,
Mm-hmm.
I was again, got to set the context, Bible briefcase
Mm-hmm.
type of
Mm-hmm.
experience. And so
Yep.
in high school, I was a very, in just school period, I was a very different kind of student. I was the type of student that I wanted to be friends with the teachers because, I just saw that, there was the leader in me that was gravitating towards leaders. Leaders
Mm-hmm.
gravitate towards leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Power gravitates towards power,
Mm-hmm.
authority
Mm-hmm.
towards authority. So I was just different. So I was the kid that I would be in the classroom grading my classmates' papers while they were out at recess. I was like, I'll help you grade papers. I was just that different type of kid. I remember even if you go back to elementary school, when Memphis City schools, they had this new program called Homework Hotline, where parents could call in, get their homework for their kids
Mm-hmm.
through the phone, which at the time was breathtaking, cutting edge technology.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was a spokesperson for that in the newspaper. Smuckers, the brand, came through Memphis. They needed a spokesperson for, a kid spokesperson. I was the
Mm-hmm.
kid spokesperson for
Mm-hmm.
Smuckers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just different is the point I'm making. Is
Mm-hmm.
so you fast forward, I had a whole nother plan and path for my life. I wanted to go into politics. I wanted to go in business, which I did. I wanted to go into, law,
Mm-hmm.
which I still get to impact in different ways. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in fact, when I was 16 years old, I did a program on UPN. I don't know if you remember that network.
Sure.
UPN did a
Yeah.
program. They did the spotlight of a bunch of teenagers in Denver, and I
Mm-hmm.
was one that they selected. And they said, "What do you want to do?" And at the time, President Obama hadn't come along. So at the time, I said, "I want to be the first Black president for the United States of America."
Mm-hmm.
And I had it all listed out, all planned, and it was a great plan. And God took my plans and said, "This is great, but this is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to do." And so you fast forward, I was literally enrolled, and this is why I want to go back. I was
Mm-hmm.
enrolled in undergrad at a very prestigious private university there in the Denver area.
Mm-hmm.
One night, I was the staff, the church that I've been part of since I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
They asked me to come out of, I had taken over the youth music department. So I'm still, in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Started my first business when I was 12, got in the ministry, started playing drums when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, we need you to come into the auditorium and we need you to lead the choir in the auditorium. We need you to lead this entire thing in the choir.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so they come to me on like a Wednesday. Church starts at 6:30. They come to me on like a Wednesday at 6:15. And so I said, like, in 15 minutes? Like, what songs are we even doing? Like, what are we even doing here? Like, guys, I got a whole, so
How did you do that?
my whole approach was yes. And I think life is filled with opportunities that our response simply has to be yes to. Just yes. I don't have to figure out the how, just yes. I don't have to know all the details, just yes. So I said yes. So that night, I do it, and everybody, loves it. And I lead the choir that night. Everybody loves it. And this is a church that the auditorium, seats like 3,500 people. So
Mm-hmm.
you're in front of a bunch of people,
Mm-hmm.
and we're on TV. This is before streaming and stuff, but on TV and all
Mm-hmm.
that. So the
Mm-hmm.
next week, the senior pastor who I had, respected and revered for years, just watching him from a distance. And I'd been on his staff for years, but never met him.
Mhm.
So he calls me and he wants to meet with me and my parents. And so we go in and listen to what happened. This is another one of those yes moments. We go in and he says, "You got the goods." I said, "Well, thank you. I've been working for you for years, but thank you. I've been on your staff for years. Of course not full time, but in the music department." And he says, "You got the goods." And so he begins to go through all these things. And then he asked me a question because I was just getting ready to graduate. I think I'd either just graduated or was getting ready to graduate high school. And he says to me, he says, "So what are you going to school for?" And I told him, I said, "Well, political science, business administration." This is all he did. He said, "Hmm." It was the deflection versus inflection. The deflection. I'll just borrow that word. We'll use it right here in his voice. Hmm.
Mm.
Okay. Well, all right. And he did that. That night, I interpreted his tone as you need to change what you're doing. So I went home, unenrolled in all of my courses and the reason I keep mentioning this is because this was not like it was a cheap university. And remember, I've
Mhm.
got my business going too. So,
Mhm.
I didn't really qualify for a lot of student loans at the time
Mhm.
just because, I was bringing in, income. So in
Because of
fact, if I
revenue,
remember,
right.
yeah, right. If I remember correct, I don't think I qualified for any, if I remember correct. But I unenroll and I said, I'm going to pursue a theological education. So that night began that difference. It began that change. And so I pursued that, and Christian education would become the path that I would take. And then urban development was also another path that I chose to take to really see how do we impact urban areas from a practical, pragmatic, policy driven perspective,
Mhm.
not just the high level platitudes. And
Mhm.
so that's why I went back. That one, he never asked me to do it. My mother never said to do it.
No,
No
no,
one ever
that
pressured me to do it.
that was important context. You went
Yeah,
back
yeah,
because tone, people forget about tone. Tone is
yes,
35% of the communication wheel. 55% is body language. The rest is
yes,
words. It's
yes,
10% or less. But
yes.
many of us are charmed with our words, not realizing that everything else, tone and body language, especially if we're upset or we disagree, people can see it if the word
Hmm.
doesn't match. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
I agree with you. I guess I agree with you.
Tell your face that. Yeah.
I had a coach that would watch people so closely. When she'd ask him a question and they'd go, "Yeah, I can do that." No, your head said no. Right? They didn't even
Hmm.
know they were going, "Yeah, that sounds good. I can do that." Your head is going, "No, you can't do that." So which one is true?
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
it was a
Powerful.
valuable lesson, and you made an important point for people to slow down, pay attention to tone, because that. So then you took that as a redirection from God or from the universe.
I did. Absolutely. I saw it as because I knew I had this path and this plan that I wanted to pursue.
Hmm.
But I had prayed this prayer early on as a kid. Kind of crazy prayer for a kid to pray, but it's the prayer I prayed. I said, "God, accelerate my destiny." I said, "Whatever
Hmm.
I'm supposed to do, I don't want to wait until years and years and years down the road to do it.
Hmm.
I don't want my 20s and 30s and 40s to be kind of figure out what I'm doing.
Hmm.
I want to do it."
Hmm.
Again, back to Bible and briefcase, back
Hmm.
to
Bible
this
in a briefcase.
consistency and persistency. This is who I am. And so that was part of that. And so I took that tone that night, made that change, and that changed everything because I said, okay, ministry it is. And
Hmm.
I never considered that because again, I had my own plan together.
Hmm.
And, in business, I was doing very well. I graduated high school making six figures. By
Hmm.
the time I was 21 years old, I built Denver's largest Black-owned mortgage company. I don't know if that's been surpassed since then. And so, like, ministry, sure, I'll do it over here on the side, but you want me to make it, you want me to not to be a side dish, you want it to be the main dish and where I spend my time and my energy. But let me tell you something, when I began to embrace that,
Hmm.
I felt alive. I felt
Hmm.
alive. When I
Hmm.
began to see the impact that what I was doing was having in the lives of people, I came alive.
Hmm.
And fast forward from that, I'm ordained at 19 into
Hmm.
ministry.
Mhm.
21, I become I am, we plan our church. So I was 21
Mhm.
years old, plan
Mhm.
our church. Something else happened at 21 too. I was selected by a group of bishops. Bishops are basically, for those who are unfamiliar with the hierarchy, just pastors to pastors. And every,
Mhm.
sect, SECT of Christianity moves somewhat differently in that, but the concept's the same. Every general needs a general, every coach needs a coach, every leader needs a leader, every pastor needs a
Mhm.
pastor. It's the
Mhm.
concept. And because I had
Mhm.
been leading things and building things since I was a kid, a group of bishops from the Atlanta area actually saw what I was doing. How they found me, I do not know, but they saw what I was doing and they said, "You need to be a bishop." There's a term called prelate,
Mhm.
Prelate.
Yeah.
And this is
Mhm.
how uninformed I was about even what they were putting in front of me. They said,
Mhm.
"We've seen your work. We recognize your work. We need you to do your work as part of, we were inviting you to do your work as part of this organization.
Mhm.
You're a builder. You know how to build things. You know how to take nothing and turn it into something." They're saying all these great
Mhm.
things. They said, "We're
Mhm.
inviting you to be the da 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 da." Prelate was the word at the end. I
Mhm.
was like, "Is that a bishop?" I was like, "What is a prelate?" I was like, "I don't even understand what that is." He was like, "Yes, that's the same thing." I said, "Oh, well, I didn't even know what it was." Destiny came knocking at my door, every stage of it, every level of it,
Mhm.
because, my posture was yes. So even though, I'll be honest,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, these are big shoes to fill. And, it's more than just shirts and collars and rings and robes and all of that. So like, these are big shoes to fill. I'm going to be leading other leaders in a formal way. I've been doing it for years, but in a
Mhm.
formalized way. I'm going to
Mhm.
be building and planting and doing all these things in a formalized way.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, I'll be celebrating 20 years of that this year.
Wow. Wow.
It's an amazing journey. But it goes back to that prayer I prayed: accelerate my destiny. And I just have always learned to give God a yes. And I think
Well,
that's so powerful.
it is, and you're also referencing how it made you feel, which is higher
Yep.
frequency
Yep.
energy. And
Yep.
there's a theory, even physicists talk about it, and in particular, there's other people who talk about it. R.J. Spina talks about superconsciousness, how that when we begin to measure the difference between high frequency energy and low frequency energy. So when we do something, and we know humans feel that if it's low frequency energy, if you're taking $2 in
Hmm.
extra change that the cashier gave you, that she's going to have to pay when they balance her cash draw, it's lower frequency energy, as
Hmm.
opposed to going back in the store and saying, "Hey, by the
Hmm.
way, I noticed you gave me $2 more." That's
Hmm.
higher frequency energy. Now, that's a very simple analogy, but the point is, as you were noticing what gave you higher frequency energy, you continued to follow that path.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and,
Your
and and I'll say
stepfather
this too.
gave you some of that comparison because you noticed you didn't want to be around that energy.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I think too, it was, when I look back, I really see it as a gift. Everything that transpired, I begin to stop viewing life through the lenses of wins and losses and wins and learns. You didn't lose if you learned.
No.
And not having this almost adversarial attitude towards, mistakes and failures and things that didn't go the way that I wanted. I talk about starting my first business when I was 12. It didn't really go that well. I mean, I was 12. And I got this business loan from this bank, believe it or not, in Denver called Young Americans Bank. They have a special charter
Hmm.
from the state of Colorado to do
Hmm.
financial products for young people and what have you. And so,
Hmm.
I'm doing this deal and got this $300 business loan. In fact, they still have a picture of me when I was 12 years old, because we pioneered their business loan program. So
Hmm.
every entrepreneur or young person that goes to that bank, that goes up to they call it a Maritime, which is
Hmm.
basically like a mock city. They have to walk past me. And there's something about that to this day is
Wow.
just, it's so rewarding,
Yeah.
because when I was doing it, I was just trying to get to 300 bucks to start my lawn care business and my tutoring service, and I did it. But the business, my first clients, I put it like this: my first clients were family, and sometimes you realize that family doesn't make the best clients. So you fast forward. Exactly. Now, I will say, when it came to others and many, I would just, because it was just me, I would just undercut their prices. So, there's, we got so and so who does that. I said, what are you paying them? It's just me and the machine. So, I can undercut your
Well, you can
prices,
make that choice. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah. And so I did that. And, as go through all of that, did very well in business and succeeded in business. But I realized I was learning a principle. But to your point about, the higher energy, the higher frequency, but I was really learning this principle that life doesn't always have to be either or, it can be both and.
It can be both and. Yes.
Because I was seeing it as, well, if I do this, I can't do this. If I do this, I can't do this. And I was given the gift of, you can do both. You get to be both. You get to have
Mm-hmm.
both. You can, again, back to how I came out of the womb.
Mm-hmm.
Bible,
Briefcase and a Bible.
briefcase to the Bible. And
Now
I think that's so powerful for so many.
it is. And I want to take a pause right here. Talk about, you've got a lot of books you've written.
Yeah.
Share a little bit about the different titles, share the different titles and how people could get them. And then you had something that you wanted to share as well about the books.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ton of books that I've done. And I got to be honest, some people are just authors. They just sit down, they just bang out a book and they're good. I have to be in a zone or a mood and have to be under divine inspiration because if not, it's not that, for me. And so, first book I wrote, so I built this successful business.
Mm-hmm.
Over the weekend, I watched the entire industry collapse, quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying, okay, God, if you get me out of this, I will teach other people how you did it for me, and I'll teach them how to do it. Like
Wow.
my whole thing was, if you learn something, if you learn, you need to share.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first book I wrote was called Making Money Moves, The Art of Getting Your Finances in Order. Because I learned what it was to build very successful, to then hit a valley, and then build back more successful than you've ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what it is to go through a low place financially, which then, impacts all these other areas of life.
Mm-hmm.
And all those principles, I put them in a book. We had a blizzard in Denver one day. And so I had 3 days, and literally I sat on that laptop and knocked it out in 3 days. And so that's one of those books that really speaks to some very pragmatic principles that everybody can use. I don't care what your
All right,
background.
say the title again.
Yep. Making Money Moves, The Art of Getting Your Finances in
Making
Order.
Money Moves.
That's it. Making
And
Money
the
Moves.
subtitle is The Art of Getting Your Finances in Order.
You got it. That's it. That's it.
That's a great book. I'm sure there's a number of people that are thinking, let me start with that one.
Yeah. All right. Listen, because let's just be honest. When things are good financially, whatever that looks like for a person, it does impact all the other areas of your life. And
Yeah.
I learned a very powerful lesson at that time because I had viewed money as the goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Money was the end game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned during that experience was money's a tool. It's a resource. It's not my source. Money gives me options and it gives me the ability to do different things. But money in itself isn't the end game. Was accustomed to a level of income in 1 month that most people didn't make, in years, decades, some in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered in that experience was that there's more to life than money. And there's some principles you got to have in place. And there's nothing wrong with having money, being blessed. There's nothing wrong with that. But just recognize, like, this is not the end game. This is not the
And you
goal.
share
Isn't
that?
just to.
Is that shared in the book?
It is practical steps, practical things about business, practical things about business, practical things about fixing your mindset
Mm-hmm.
about money. Because a lot of people think because they have money that they're not in poverty. Poverty is a mindset.
It's very
You can
true.
have money, but still be in poverty because poverty really says that I can't do any better. I can't get any greater. I've reached the lid of life.
Mm-hmm.
When you think you've reached the lid of life, well, man, that's when life gets real self-destructive and real negative for people because it's like, okay, well, what's next after this? And this is how you know it. You can look at people who have hundreds of millions of dollars and they still will go and take their lives, for example.
Yeah.
And so you've got what everybody wants. Why are you? I saw a recent study that said most millionaires, so more than 51%, don't feel rich and they're not happy. And I thought, well, now this is where everybody, generally speaking, air quotes, Everybody's trying to get to this place. Everybody's trying to get to this stage of life. Everybody wants that. But the people who have it, so that book really delves into that, because if you don't fix your mentality around it, you can get the thing, but never ever enjoy the things that you get because you didn't fix your mentality around it.
True. It's true. We hear humans say, "I'll be satisfied when." They don't recognize that's a question. I'll be satisfied when.
Yeah.
When is a question
Yeah.
mark after when. So how
Yes.
did they get that book?
Great question. So that and all our books, bishopforeman.com,
Bishop
Foreman.com,
Foreman, Foreman.com.
MAN.com.
And what are
You
some of the
got it.
other books?
So another one that I did is called Evolutionaries. Talks about the evolutionary process of the butterfly and how the butterfly starts as small as a sesame seed on a sesame seed bun,
Mm-hmm.
and then it grows into what we see as the butterfly in stage 4. That process goes back to something you and I were just talking about, is about our journey,
Mm-hmm.
is about the process we go through to become. And one of the things I got when I first moved out, I got this gift. I believe my mom got it for me, and I'm looking at it right now. It says, "Life is a journey, not a destination." And when you're since the age of 12, you got one button which is on, and
Mm-hmm.
you're going, 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 which is, to me, it's a very good thing. Sometimes though, you get so focused on where you're headed, you don't enjoy the journey to head there. You don't enjoy
Mm-hmm.
getting there. And so in evolutionaries, what I love about evolution versus revolution just means change, but it doesn't always mean change for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Evolution is always change for the better. The
Mm-hmm.
butterfly, once it starts flying, can never go back to being a caterpillar.
Mm-hmm.
It can never go back to being in the cocoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really true about our lives as we continue to evolve daily, live our lives as students. And that's a principle I talk about in the book. Sometimes people feel depressed and anxiety and they get down in the dumps because you thought you were an expert. And life then showed you that what you thought you knew you didn't know. Life then shows you that what you believed, maybe it's not exactly as you believed it. And
Mm-hmm.
so then your whole world shatters, but that's
Mm-hmm.
only because you saw yourself as an expert. When you see
Mm-hmm.
yourself as a student,
Mm-hmm.
you go through life and you get some things wrong. It's like, okay, I'm a student. I got that wrong. Okay, I'm a student. No, I didn't do that right. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's an amazing book about that evolutionary process and journey using the butterfly. 4 stages. Stage 1, small as a sesame seed on a sesame seed bun. Stage 2 grows to 100 times its size. Stage 3, something crazy happens. It's buried underground or behind a leaf in a chrysalis, in a cocoon by
Mm-hmm.
itself, goes in as a caterpillar, but comes out as a butterfly. And if it doesn't struggle out of the cocoon, it'll never be able to fly. That helped me to appreciate. We often run from struggle, but struggle often is the thing giving you the strength. It's the thing that makes you supernatural. It's the thing that makes you significant. Is
Well,
show me your
and
struggle, I'll show you your strength.
that's true. And you know what? You said something else, that life is a gift.
Yes,
Life is for us. And
yes.
a lot of people get stuck in the story of you want to hear what's happening to me. You want to hear what my boss did. You want to hear what my wife did, my cousin did, the next door neighbor did, the guy down the street, what the governor did. We love complaints. Humans love complaints. Complaints, unless you take it to the person that can do something about it, is lower frequency energy because it's gossip. Unless you're talking to the person, hey, governor, I got an idea for you. Unless you're talking to the person, the boss, hey, boss, I got an idea, or I got a complaint and I got a request. That's brave, and it takes courage to go tell the coworker in the lunchroom and have the coworker say, oh, yeah, you're right, you poor thing.
Mhm.
It's wasted energy. And what that means is life is happening to them, not for them. So you made an important point there, that life is a gift. And
And
that's the same thing, even though the caterpillar is getting transformed
yep,
and it
yep,
seems like it's going to die, and it has to struggle to get out of the cocoon to become a butterfly, to reach its evolved state.
yep.
So
Absolutely.
you have other books, but we're going to get back to that in a minute, because I want to remind people, bishopforeman.com. You got to check out the bishop's books. Okay. Now I want to get to what is the church's mission? What are some of the things you're doing with your ministry? because I was fascinated reading. You're covering a lot of ground in that ministry.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing. So we planted from scratch, from nothing in Denver. They call that a parachute plant. And so essentially it just means no help from any outside source. The only money we have is my money. And so let's connect the timeline. So we plant the church after my, for-profit businesses when the entire industry's collapsed. So it's not just
Mm-hmm.
us, the entire industry's collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
So then we plant this church. And I remember saying, God, like, why would you not have me to do this when I'm at the zenith, the apex? Like, why are we having these discussions in what feels like a low place? And for me, I really believe back to this concept of a yes. I really would have never been fully invested in it unless that sequence of events happened. As you just said, life happened for me. Because I was doing so well in business, the thought of like, starting a church, who wants to do that? I don't want to do that. I was very happy being a number two, associate pastor type and helping
Mm-hmm.
to, execute things. I liked being what I called the heavy. You
Mm-hmm.
got a problem? I'll take care of that for you. I liked doing that and
Mm-hmm.
music and all those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Associate pastor, building up youth ministry, hundreds of young people coming to the Lord, music ministry, doing all those things. And so then we planted church. And it was, again, it wasn't my idea. It wasn't something I wanted to do or desired to do. And the way I like
Mm-hmm.
to tell the story is basically God backed me into a corner and said, now you can do whatever you want to do. This is your only option, though, but you can do whatever you want. Well, what's my other option? Like, and let me tell you what I mean by that. So, I've been working and making money since I was 12. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
scripture that says, the man that doesn't work doesn't eat. I like to eat. I was much thicker back then. I was like 125 big pounds bigger back then. So I still
Mm-hmm.
like to eat. Let me be clear.
Mm-hmm.
And so during that time, I was applying for every type of job that I could get.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. Domino's wouldn't call me back to deliver pizza, and this is before they changed their recipe. This is when it was still not that good, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Pizza Hut wouldn't call me back. They wouldn't give me the job as somebody's administrative assistant. I said, they said you're overqualified. I said, you guys don't get it. You bring somebody like me in that you can get for cheap. I'm not gonna be here forever, but you bring me in, let me fix all the stuff that's wrong, and then
Yeah.
you send me on my way. I said, take advantage of the fact that you got somebody overqualified who's applying. You know,
Mm-hmm.
no door that I knocked on would open. And so I remember thinking, and I'm an entrepreneur by nature.
That
I
was
would
God.
That's exactly what that was. Sometimes we think that God is only in the open doors. I've discovered he's the God that also shuts doors.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you won't know what path you're supposed to be on because you're knocking over here, you're knocking over here, you're knocking over here, you're knocking over there. And that's true with every area of life. That's relationships. Sometimes like, well,
True.
is it this person? Is it this person? Is it
It's
this? Is it
true.
this? You're knocking on all these doors because, we got to knock.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a scripture that says, knock and keep on knocking,
Mm-hmm.
and the door will be open, which means
Mm-hmm.
there's a door for you
For you.
that
Right.
you're going to have to knock through a bunch of that are going to slam in your face or never open for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that happened. So I remember summer of that year basically saying, okay, for like spring, okay, God, fine, I'll start this church. Let me tell you how against it I was still. There would be days we started on Saturday nights. There would be days I would, instead of doing a message, I would show a movie. I know that sounds like the most crazy thing you've ever like. You go to church, people watching the movie. Yeah, I was so against the concept. I was like, this is not something I really desire to do. But then I eventually got to a yes, and I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
make me want what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Make me desire and enjoy what you desire for me to do, because
Mm-hmm.
it's much easier when the manufactured is cooperating with the manufacturer. When the
Hello.
created is cooperating with the creator, it's much easier. And so I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this tension and I don't want this stress. I like this has been a lot, so let's do that. So long story
Mm-hmm.
short, we get started. And first service we do, we have over 100 people there, which for a parachute plant with no budget, that's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, 7 people,
Mm-hmm.
which in church planning metric. Now, the only reason there was 100 is because I stacked that service with every dancer you could get, every singer you could get. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, every person that if you
Mm-hmm.
could read a poem, you were coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, type of a thing. I stacked that service that night. And we did what we did. And that next week, 7 people. And make a long story short, you go from 7 people to we've seen now almost 13,000 professions of faith.
Wow.
We've seen last year alone, we saw 1,859 professions of faith. Those connected to us, well over 16,000 that are connected in our database one way or another. We've got the Harvest Leadership Network, we've got Harvest Bible College, we've got Harvest Church, we've got the foundation. So we do a lot of philanthropic work.
Yeah.
We've given away just shy of $1 million in missions, both domestic and abroad.
Wow.
Given away hundreds of thousands of pounds of food, hundreds of thousands of articles of clothing. We asked this question. I said, if we were to stop existing, would it matter that we existed? And so that's the measurement from which I use everything we're going to do. We have to make such an impact in the lives of people that if we were to not do it, people would say, where are y'all at? What's going on? What's happening? So many years in Denver. Here recently, we moved our headquarters to the Atlanta, Georgia area, and we'll be launching the location here real soon. And as part of our evolution. So for years, we've been Harvest, and we're evolving into history makers. Because I said, in this next phase of ministry, I want to make people who make history.
And that's going to be an evolution from the Colorado church.
Yes.
And you're gonna take that to Atlanta, and you are in Atlanta now.
I'm in Atlanta right now. Listen, it is. I'm in Atlanta right now, and that's another one of those yes things. I had no reason to leave Denver. Nothing was wrong. I know, and we still have our amazing people in Denver, but we became this hybrid church movement. Which, again, I'll be honest, I was sort of against it. I would like see preachers and stuff on YouTube and all that. I was like, I'm a real pastor, But
hey, you know
I was
what? John
against it.
Maxwell used to say when he got his first job, it was a very small rural community. And as he moved and took different opportunities at different parishes or different churches, sometimes he took roles that were lesser paid, lesser role to begin with, and he didn't know where it was going to go, but he thought I could learn a lot in this situation. And then eventually, of course, we don't have to say what John Maxwell and his work turned into.
Sure.
It's amazing, right? And so this is part of your evolution, and it may feel like I like to say to my clients and to people that listen that when life feels we feel most pressed upon by life, the greatest gifts are there.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
to be patient and keep looking for where you're getting directed. And often it's to what you said. It's in the misdirections. It's when the door won't open. That's where we got to pay attention, and especially when we feel most pressed upon. And it's a lot of people quit.
Yep.
Right? You've heard the old saying, right? They quit just before short of the finish line.
Yep, right before it. Right before it. Right before it. And that goes back to those early principles: consistency and persistence. I learned that.
Yeah.
Had I not learned that early on, that's exactly what would happen. Because think about it. Just even go back to the genesis of the church, or even the genesis of business. One of the things I didn't mention when I started the mortgage company, and there's a whole lot that led to that, but here's the point. I was the number one producer just prior to that. I was the number one producer in the company. Nothing was closing. I prayed a prayer. So for months, nothing was closing. I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. I prayed a prayer. I said, God, if you want me to do this, like I need the dam to break like within the next 7 days. And if it doesn't break, I'll just go do something else. I'll just go get, quote unquote, as I called it at the time, I'll just go get a regular job because maybe I'm not supposed to do this. And let me tell you, when that dam broke that week. But that was several months of doing the work, showing up, and nothing happening. Imagine starting a church. You got
could have
100
walked
people.
away, and you didn't.
You got 100 people. Next week, you got 7 people. And you decide, okay, I'm going to keep going, right? I mean, I remember we went on TV and we were in a school. Like we were doing all kind of just crazy things that were just these crazy leaps of faith. But you fast forward and you see the tens of thousands of lives that have been impacted, all because of this yes. That doesn't mean it wasn't difficult, it wasn't frustrating, but I learned that if I keep a yes, that life is amazing. It only becomes difficult when your posture becomes no, and you're obstinate and you're stubborn and you're difficult and you're negative. I was like, okay. And my saying, you said it earlier, but it's the saying, so life is happening for me. It's not happening to me.
Yep. Yeah. And so what do you want to leave people with? Again, let's talk about another book. You got another book you recommend, and that you go to bishopforeman.com. Bishop, Foreman.com.
You got it.
You can address your finances and get help. You can you can look at the books that the bishop's written and get spiritual guidance. You can get a story about sins of the father. Which books do you want to talk about next? What do you want to?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So the one
Healthy
that's
living too, by the way, healthy lifestyles. You have a story there
listen,
too.
that's part of the journey too. So I've lost now over 120 pounds, all natural lifestyle
And that's
changes.
one of
That
your
was
books, right? You share the story.
I tell the story. So we did a masterclass on it
Mm-hmm.
where we tell that story
Mm-hmm.
and about that journey too, because I was, what really happened is I went to my annual physical. I'm always a pro, especially for men. Men, sometimes we don't do anything until it's falling apart and falling off. I guess I'll go. I was different. I was like, I'm paying for these benefits. I want to use my benefits. And so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I go in, and when I go to the doctor, she says, okay, you are one, click away from being pre-diabetic. And I was like, your mama? I mean, the jokingly, like
Yeah.
this can't be true.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I got to do something different. I got to move different.
Mm-hmm.
I traveled a lot, busy, very full schedule. Oh, I ate a lot of fast food, all that. Long story short, made some lifestyle changes after praying. I was praying. I was on a 21-day, what they call Daniel fast, basically fruits
Mm-hmm.
and vegetables. I said, God, you got
Mm-hmm.
to give me a strategy. I was like, my whole life has not followed the statistics. My whole life has not fit into the box. So why would I think it would now? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's another trick for everybody too, watching and listening. Like if your whole life has defied the statistics and defied what the experts say, why would you now start trying to live your life according to what your whole life has never been?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think all of us have that supernatural element of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk about that in a master class. But the last book I'll mention
Sure.
is one that's coming out, which is History Makers.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on when people watch this or see this, it talks about how do you make history right where you are in your everyday life. Often when we think of history makers, certain names may come to mind. You may think of Dr.
Mm-hmm.
King. You might think
Mm-hmm.
of this one or that one. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is you're a history
Rosa
maker.
Parks.
Yeah, exactly. And rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
But you're a history maker right there, where you're doing, where you're at, whether you're a mom, whether you're a business owner, you're a leader. I believe that every person was sent to the earth to do more than just pay bills, have babies, and die. I believe that we're
What
on
if
the
those
earth.
people said no? Just the two we
Correct.
mentioned, Dr. King
Correct.
and Rosa Parks.
Correct.
Or Mahatma
Correct.
Gandhi. What if he had said, "Nah, we don't want to fight this. Let's just stay comfortable under British rule. Forget
Correct.
your complaints. We won't ever
Correct.
be a free country."
Correct. Correct. Exactly. We see those and we celebrate
Mm-hmm.
those as we should. That book really inspires every person to say, where am I making history in my everyday life? And how do I do it in my everyday life? Because I think sometimes the thought is that's great for them, but I'm just a regular person. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing regular about you.
No,
There's nothing average about you. There's
no.
nothing, just lackadaisical and happenstance about you. I really believe that we were born, and I have this saying to rule, reign, conquer, and subdue. And
Yeah.
there's something we were sent to the earth to do. And so
Say
history
that again.
makers really talks about it.
Rule,
Yeah, rule,
rule,
reign,
reign,
conquer,
conquer,
and subdue.
and subdue.
Yeah.
And that's your message right there can be for the person that has the passion to go down the street corner and help out at the shelter, or go down the street corner and help the consignment store that donates a
Mhm.
lot of their clothing to others in need, or goes to the food kitchen and helps prepare a meal, or grows something in the garden and gets the urge to go bring that fresh
Mhm.
food to a food kitchen, food pantry. It doesn't have to be Rosa Parks or Dr. Martin King or Mahatma Gandhi, right? It doesn't have to be that big. And you said something about that. If you have that desire within you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
said something about that. Say it again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's just it. Everybody's a history maker right where you are in your everyday
There it
life.
is.
And it I think sometimes we look at what we can't do, make us miss what we can do. Well, I could never do that. Yeah, but you can do this though. You,
Yeah.
you, you remember that story about the starfish and how the kid is picking up the starfish, throwing them back in the ocean, throwing them back in the ocean. The man comes along and says, there's so many, how are you even, you're not, how are you even really making a difference? And he says, well, to that one I did, and to that one I did, and to that one I did. And this is why even in ministry and business, I coach a lot of people, I lead a lot of people, executives, business owners, you name it, the entire vast spectrum of people. And here's what I always love to hear: the results. I call them testimonies, praise reports in their lives, because you never know. And I run into people all the time, especially since we've relocated to Atlanta. We're getting ready to launch here in this area. I run into people everywhere. People will walk up to me at the gym, turn their phones toward me, and show me on their phone and say, and is this you? I'm like, it's me, and they'll say, you have no clue what you helped me get through. You helped me get through this divorce. You helped me get through. I didn't commit suicide because I saw one of your videos. I didn't give up on my business. I didn't give up on my family. My business, if it's a business owner, they'll send in their receipts and say, oh my God, we just crossed the $7 million mark. We just crossed the $2 million mark, whatever it is. But I look at all of that and I say, oh my goodness, this is what gives me life. It gives me life to change the lives of people. Is it always easy? No. Is it always a journey that's not filled with some challenges? Absolutely not. But to me, anything worthwhile is worth going through something.
Yeah.
And I said that to everybody. You're a history maker right where you're at. History Makers is the book. History Makers is also what Harvest evolves into. History Makers first.
Can people pre-order that?
They can. They get it on again, bishopforeman.com. They can pre-order it. They can get it on Amazon too, for those who don't want to get books over there. All of my books are on Amazon. You just type in Bishop Foreman, everything will come up on Amazon. But we got tons of resources: music, messages, apparel.
You got to go to the website, folks. You got to
check it out. You got to check it out.
Wait a minute. I want to add something else. Are you accepting speaking engagements?
I do. I do a lot of those.
Good.
I do a lot of those.
You want Bishop Foreman to be a speaker for your organization, for your event, reach out to bishopforeman.com, because you just heard a great oracle, right? There's a lot that he can leave you with.
Thank you.
And you know where it's coming from. It's coming from the creator of the universe, folks. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't try to convince anybody of anything. I've had my experiences, so I understand where some of this energy comes from. And this is high frequency energy. That's what he's tuned into. That aligns with what created a universe.
Yeah.
And we can choose the lower frequency energy, but we know the difference.
Yeah. No, I love what you said.
Well, what do you want to leave people with?
You know what? It's this one saying: you got a pulse, there's still a plan. That's it.
I love that. You got a pulse, there's still a plan.
There's still a plan. Your best
days. I wake up here every day and say, okay, I'm here, so I got work to do.
Yep.
To be here in the now, right? This is where God is. I'm writing a book. I won't plug my book right now, but I'm writing a book. I'll share. I'll email you. I'll share you what I'm writing. Because God is in the now. God is everywhere. God is never absent. The creator of a universe. If the creator of a universe decided, I don't want to do this today, he decided not to say no today, we wouldn't be here, folks. Because even physicists don't understand what we're living in. I call it a miracle. And I remind people, when I'm out and around and about, I say to people, well, we live in a miracle. Because especially if I leave people a few extra dollars, the cashier at the supermarket, I usually don't accept change, no matter what the bill is. And I'm fascinated with the people's responses, like, are you sure? Why are you doing this? We live in a miracle, and we forget. And humans need to be reminded of it. And if you have a pulse,
still a plan.
Still a plan. That's the thing to remember. And if you're fighting something, if you're struggling, when life is pressing down on you the most, you feel it the most, God is right there, in there, directing you to something new. You need some patience. Maybe you're the acorn under the ground. It had to get smashed open and buried under the ground in the dark, watered, and then have faith that someday it might be an oak tree. Especially, it's the sprout stage. You got to hope a deer didn't eat it. But still, we understand an acorn can become an oak, and all of us can become. If you got a pulse,
still a plan.
There's still a plan.
Still a plan. That's it.
So what's the last thought, a couple of minutes, that you want to leave people with about their life or about, I love what you said about if you got a pulse, there's a plan.
You know what? I think, honestly, I think that's it, because here's what that means. My best days aren't behind me. They are here, and
Mm-hmm.
they are ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't met everybody that's going to love you. You haven't met everybody that's going to help you. You and I are just meeting. And even though it seems like we've known each other for a long time,
Mm-hmm. It does.
you know, because we're tapped into that same thing. But the reality is
And we
that you haven't
didn't
met
meet
everybody
at the
that's going to help
barber
you.
shop, did we?
No, we didn't. No, well, I think we both kind of, we go to the same. You go on Tuesdays, I go on Thursdays. But it's this realization that you haven't met everybody that's going to love you. You haven't
I
met
love
everybody
that.
that's going to help you. You haven't been every place you're going to go. You haven't had every experience you're going to have. There's so much more life to live. And I discovered that many people just breathe and exist. They never live. Wouldn't it be
Mm.
ashamed to get to the end of life and realize you never lived it? You got to
Well,
post
it's
this.
been said that cemeteries are the place that are the richest on earth
I believe that.
because most people die with their dreams within them.
I believe that.
And it
I
doesn't have
believe
to
that.
be a big dream. If you got a pulse, there's a plan. Go follow your heart and what energizes you. So even if it's helping somebody across the street or giving a few bucks out of your pocket for somebody who's down in their luck, never look at it as, well, this person should go get a job. No, they crossed your path because God wanted to see what you do. Would you do good
Mhm. There's
or
something
not?
you've got to give them. Yeah. And there's something you've got to give them. And here's how I discovered, and there's something they've got to give me.
Mm-hmm.
Everything
Mm-hmm.
in this, everything is symbiotic. I got to
Mm-hmm.
say this. I know we're coming to the end, but I just have to say
Yeah,
this.
no. We listen. You and I can edit this. I can even make it into two. So we're not coming to
I
the
love it.
end
I love
unless
it.
we
I love it.
decide, right?
I love it.
All right.
Oftentimes people will feel like, so and so took advantage of me, and, I got the bad end of the deal. And I learned to accept this principle and really live from this principle. No one has the power to take advantage of you. No one really has the power to do you, air quote, wrong. And here's what I mean by that. Everything in life is sowing and reaping.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in life is sowing and reaping. And so,
Mm-hmm.
at best or at worst, either way you want to look at it, any experience we go through that's unfair or
Mm-hmm.
that's, one-sided, or we think, man, this wasn't a great deal, or whatever it might be, at best or at worst, however you want to view it, what's really happening is that there was an exchange. There was
Mm-hmm.
something you needed out of it and something
Mm-hmm.
that their situation needed out of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just sowing. And if you view yourself as a farmer and a
Mm-hmm.
student, like those are the two mindsets. I'm a farmer and a student. I'm sowing
Mm-hmm.
seeds,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll reap what I sowed, not necessarily where I sowed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a farmer, sowing. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
farmer, sowing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a farmer, sowing. And you view yourself as a student. Those two things really get you out of the victim thinking, and they
Mm-hmm.
get you into a place where you're constantly seeing yourself as victorious. And to your point, you may think it's small, but you don't know how something so small might end up being something so big and so
Mm-hmm.
significant down the
Mm-hmm.
road, not just for them, but also for you.
Mm-hmm. It's very true. You know that some people come to teach us how to be. Some
Mhm.
people come to teach us how not to be. Maybe that's what you learn from the person that hurt you. And so there's a gift because there's no place that God isn't. So that means if I decide I want to feel hurt by someone, I'm missing the gift to look at it deeper and say, okay, why does this hurt?
Yeah.
And have I
Yeah.
ever done this? Maybe. Have I ever been this way? Maybe I'm getting this experience to see how I made others feel in the past.
That's powerful.
There's a gift in everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, life is a gift. And what do we do with gifts? We unwrap them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, not all of them are wrapped as we would like.
So true. So true. So true. So true. But it's still a gift nonetheless.
It's still a gift if we can sit back and ponder that. What's the gift in this? How can I learn and grow? What new door could I open or what new road can I take? That there's always something worthwhile in no matter what happens.
Yeah. You know what I like to say is, where's the gift in this and where's the God in this? God, where are you at in this?
Yeah, where's God in this?
Show me, show me where you're at in this, because the moment everybody knows. So gifts are my love language. I
Mm-hmm.
never would have thought that, because I'm a giver. So I never would have thought that. But when I took the
Mm-hmm.
test, it's my top language. And really what
Mm-hmm.
it is
Mm-hmm.
just because I think about all of what a person had to go through to get the gift. You had to go to the store, you had to
Mm-hmm.
get sizes, all the things that a person had to do to get a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows, if I get a gift, before I even get to my office, like let's say it's at church, I'm unwrapping the gift as I'm walking the hall, like as I'm walking from the stage. What is this? I'm unwrapping it. And I've learned to do that with life, like unwrap it fast
Mm,
versus sometimes, you go through things and you're just so, I got to hurry up and get out of this. I got to hurry up and move on. I've
mm,
learned to unwrap the gift quickly so I can
mm-hmm,
begin to get the lesson quickly. I can get the experience. I can get it more quickly
mm-hmm,
than getting it, setting it over here, putting it over here. I learned to unwrap it fast. And that helps you to heal quickly in life. Because I think
mm-hmm,
the challenge that many people have is you're carrying baggage and wounds
mm-hmm,
into new territories, new places, and new spaces that's
mm-hmm,
preventing you from enjoying it and preventing
mm,
you from experiencing it.
mm,
I just want to unwrap that gift now. Like, okay, somebody says, I don't want to be with you anymore. Okay, that hurts, but I got to at least pray that prayer. Okay, God, where are you at in this?
mm-hmm,
Where's this gift in this?
mm-hmm,
You have a bad business move. Okay, God, all right. Whew, okay, I got to rebound from this, but where are you at in this? Where's the gift in this? Because
mm-hmm,
there's something in there. Like, let me do that more quickly.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It makes a difference in people's lives that adopt that idea. At least it made a difference in my own because I wasn't like that up until I was almost 50. But then God gave me a new view of life. And you're doing work in so many different ways, teaching people about their finances. You're helping them in your community. You're also showing people, like, if you've got a
Pulse.
if you got a pulse, there's a plan. All right. So, number one, they can reach you at bishopforeman.com.
You got it.
And your email is
So social media is the best way.
social
On
media
any
is
of
the
the
best way.
social
Good.
platforms. And in fact, I'd love for your audience, shoot me a message. If you heard something today that added value to your life,
Yeah.
bless you, encourage you, increase you, I actually respond to all the messages myself. I get
Okay.
several hundred messages a day. So it may take me a few days to respond, but I do respond.
Okay.
I love to know that they were watching or listening to the podcast,
Yeah.
and just let me know what stuck out to you. Let me know. But social media, all of it's Bishop Foreman, Bishop. I know I talk fast. Foreman. That's the best way to connect, and you always look for the blue checks. I only say that because on TikTok, I have over 100 fake profiles of me. And so I said, and TikTok hasn't taken them down. So here's what I said. I said, well, evidently what I'm saying must be that impactful that a
Yeah.
hundred
The people
different
want to,
people
imitation is the highest form of flattery.
has. So I said, I'm flattered. But just I say that to people because I said I am not asking you for $10 for the orphanage and whatever type of thing, the scams that different people that are on. So, but anyway, I just got to tell you, thank you again for what you do,
You're welcome.
creating these
I'm great.
conversations. I have enjoyed myself. I've not just shared, but I've learned and I've grown. Back to my point, there's something I'm taking from this
I've
conversation.
learned and
Awesome.
I've grown. Now, are you going to have a meeting, online meeting? You're going to have a meeting place in Atlanta? Is that what your goal is?
Right, right. We'll do a full location here. So it's
Mm-hmm.
going to launch here shortly. In the interim, though, people can participate in our services. We're hybrid church, so in person and online
Mm-hmm.
in that pre-launch phase. And so it's all online.
Same
And then, of course,
website,
people are, yep,
bishopforeman.com.
yep,
And your
bishopforeman.com. Yep.
services are there and your
Services are there.
online links and things?
Messages are
Great,
there. Everything's there. Our apps there. Like
great,
everything you need, we got it. 360 for your life. It's
great,
from relationships to prayer, whatever it is, we got you.
great. Well, I'm grateful that God put us together and that your assistant reached out to ask me about having you as a guest. And when I read your profile, I said, man, this guy is sent from God without a doubt. He has to share his message. So for everyone, remember bishopforeman.com.
That's it.
Go look at the books he's written. There's a message in there for if any of you felt moved by some of the titles, go buy the book. And then check out the services online. Bishop Foreman, if you got a pulse, there's a plan.
So,
All right. Thank you, Bishop.
thank you. Thanks for having me.